On the night of August 17th, 2005, four friends found themselves trapped in a cave, struggling to breathe as panic set in. What started as an exciting adventure quickly turned into a nightmare that would cost them their lives. The story begins during a dinner when Jennifer Gilbreath shares a frightening experience she had in a hidden cave on Y Mountain. She recounted how she had once fainted from the cold, but managed to escape. Despite her scary tales, Jennifer convinced her friends to join her in exploring the cave, believing they could swim through a 15-foot passage to reach a secret area. They had no idea that danger was lurking just below the surface. Let's dive right into the video to know what exactly happened. Blake Donner, Scott McDonald, and Ariel Singer were excited about this adventure. However, their fifth friend, Joseph Ferguson, was scared and decided to stay outside. He didn't want to squeeze into the cave's narrow opening and chose to wait for his friends to return. The entrance to the cave was not welcoming at all. It had a wet floor and was only 4 feet tall. To get inside, they had to crouch down and walk through a nearly 100-foot-long tunnel filled with shallow water. This might scare off regular hikers, but those who knew about the cave were drawn to its hidden depths. To reach the secret area, they had to lower themselves through an 18 by 24-inch hole filled with water. This was known to make people feel disoriented and panicked. Late that night, the group decided to enter the cold cave. By the time they arrived, it was almost 4 a.m. Inside the cave, they reached a fork in the path. They had only one flashlight to guide them, so they took the wet path to the right. After another 50 feet, they came to a cavern with a hole leading to an underwater tunnel. One by one, they gathered their courage and lowered themselves into the dark, narrow passage. After 15 minutes of hesitation, Jennifer, who had been there before, took the lead. They watched as her head disappeared under the water, leaving only ripples behind. The tunnel was very tight, only 2 feet wide and 4 feet high. Blake, Scott, and Ariel followed Jennifer into this cramped space. A rope stretched through the tunnel to help them find their way back. Losing grip of this rope could be life-threatening, especially if the water turned murky from disturbed sediment. A previous explorer, Brian Lamry, knew how dangerous this could be. He had lost his rope and ended up at a dead end, almost drowning before he found his way back. By 5 a.m., the four friends reached the inner chamber of the cave, gasping for air. They found themselves in a small space with water up to their chests and a ceiling only 6 feet high. This chamber could fit about 8 people, but there was only about 3 feet of air above the water. Outside, Joseph was starting to worry. He waited for a long time, unsure of how long his friends would be inside. Meanwhile, inside the cave, the air was becoming stale. In caving, bad air means there is less oxygen and more carbon dioxide. The air in the cave was becoming dangerous. As they stayed in the chamber, the oxygen levels dropped, and carbon dioxide levels rose. The cave's stillness made the air feel heavy. Realizing it was hard to breathe, they felt an urgent need to leave. However, the narrow exit allowed only one person to go through at a time, making their situation worse. The silence and stale air added to their panic. One by one, they realized that the cave, which had seemed like a fun adventure, was now turning into a death trap. The walls felt like they were closing in, and their hearts raced as they struggled to stay calm. They hoped they could all escape the darkness that surrounded them. Jennifer was the first to try and find the exit. She struggled as her breath ran out. With the oxygen levels dropping dangerously low, she had only a minute before she could lose consciousness. The water had become murky, making it hard to find the guiding rope. Meanwhile, Joseph was growing anxious outside. After waiting for 45 minutes, he decided to check on his friends. He looked into the cave but saw no sign of them. Worried, he called some other friends who knew the cave. Finally, at 6:25 a.m., he called the police, unaware of the terrifying struggle happening inside. Inside the cave, Jennifer was fighting for her life. Ariel, Blake, and Scott were trapped in the inner chamber, suffocating in the stale air. Ariel felt the effects of the rising carbon dioxide and made a desperate push for survival. She reached out in the dark, searching for the exit, only to find Jennifer's lifeless body blocking the way. What had once seemed like a clear path was now a suffocating nightmare. Blake and Scott were left gasping for the diminishing air, their chances of survival fading away. The discomfort quickly turned into agony as they realized they needed to escape. Driven by desperation, Blake entered the water-filled tunnel, but soon encountered the bodies of Ariel and Jennifer. The small, dimly lit space offered no relief, and panic escalated within the group. Ariel was unconscious and blocking the narrow passage, making it nearly impossible for Blake to get past her. Scott, still in the chamber with low oxygen, was struggling too. The heavy air and rising panic made every breath a challenge. As he entered the tunnel to reunite with his friends, he quickly found the way blocked. The realization that escape was nearly impossible hit him hard, and he might have lost consciousness at that moment. The cave that had promised an exciting adventure had turned into a nightmare. Each friend was trapped, facing the terrifying fact that their fun outing had become a fight for survival against overwhelming odds. The silence in the cave was deafening, filled only with their growing panic. Finally, when rescue teams arrived, they quickly began pumping water out of the cave while also pumping oxygen in. Their goal was to provide any survivors with the air they needed to breathe. They successfully lowered the water level by 2 feet, making it safer for the rescuers to enter and begin their search. It took nearly 4 hours from the time Joseph called the police before the first body was found. In the dark tunnel, rescuers discovered Jennifer's lifeless body just inside the entrance. The scene was heartbreaking. Hours of searching eventually revealed that Ariel, Blake, and Scott were also found together, all facing the exit hole in a final attempt to escape. Jennifer's body may have accidentally blocked the others from getting out. One body was found lying on the tunnel floor, while the other 2 were floating. Autopsies later confirmed that all 4 friends had tragically drowned. The evidence painted a grim picture of their final moments in the cave. The entrance to the cave was eventually sealed with concrete, turning it into a solemn memorial. This was done to prevent any further loss of life. The story of these 4 friends serves as a somber reminder of the dangers that can be hidden in what seems like a fun adventure. Reflecting on this tragic story, we are reminded of the importance of safety when exploring unknown areas. This terrible event teaches us to respect nature and be aware of the potential dangers that come with adventure. As we think about the risks involved in such explorations, we wonder what could have been done differently to save the remaining 3 friends. This tale is not just about the loss of life, but also about the lessons we can learn from it. Caving can be thrilling, but it is crucial to prioritize safety and ensure that adventures are undertaken with proper knowledge and equipment. This tragic story echoes the importance of being prepared and making wise choices. Always be cautious when exploring new places. If you liked this story, please share your thoughts in the comments and let us know what you think could have saved these friends. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that remind us of the beauty and the dangers of the world we explore.